be your narrator throughout this wonderful endeavor. And now we shall begin. More than at any other time of the year, we love to sing at Christmas. Singing the hymns and carols of Christmas puts us in touch with our past and brings awareness of the many global cultures and diversities of Christmas. Most of the carols we hear this morning are of English, French, and German origins, written by hymnals written by American hymnists are few. And for our first song this morning will be Lo, How a Rose Hair Blooming, number 26, if you're looking for it in your hymnals. The history behind this hymn. The 15th century German words, translated by Theodore Baker, are a paraphrase of Isaiah chapter 11, verse 1. And there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. Isaiah chapter 35, verse 1 suggests a stronger biblical basis for the image. The wilderness and the solitary place shall be glad, and the desert shall rejoice and bloom as the rose. The tune by Michael Praetorius was harmonized in 1609. Our next hymn, In the Bleak Midwinter, number 221 in your hymnals. The poet Christiana Georgiana Rossetti came from a family steeped in the arts. Her deep faith is thought to be partially a result of the solace that she found in writing as a result of her poor health at the age of 16. In stanza 1, Christiana creates a dreary and desolate image of the world into which the infant Jesus appeared by drawing on the experience of a British winter. She is not suggesting that it is literally snowed in Bethlehem, but is drawing on a long-established literary idea of associating snow with Christ's birth. In stanza 4, the writer invites us to offer our own gift for the first child. Rather than the present of the lamp or expensive gifts, we offer our most important gifts, our hearts. In 1906, the composer, Gustav Holst, set the poetry to music.
In the bleak midwinter, frosty wind may moan. Birds stood hard as iron, water like stone. Snow had fallen, snow on snow. Snow on snow, in the bleak
to our next hymn. 'Twas in the moon of winter time. Number 244. Now, this carol, written in the Huron language by Jesuit priest, Father Jean de Brébeuf, in 1643, is considered the first Canadian carol, and is one of Canada's national treasures. The title was Jesus Haton Him, Jesus is born, and is set to the tune Juan Pusela, a young man. In retelling the story of the Nativity, Father de Brébeuf used symbols that could be easily understood within the culture of the Hurons. It is said that the hymnal entered the tribe's oral traditions. The hymn invites us to sing with nature, angels, and families, and fellow believers to worship Christ, our Lord. And now, O little town of Bethlehem, number 230. Many centuries after the birth of Jesus, a young Episcopal preacher from Philadelphia visited the Holy Land. On Christmas Eve in 1865, he rode from Jerusalem to Bethlehem, passing through the fields where the shepherds had kept their sheep. He attended a service not far from the place where the Holy Child had been born. 2 years later, his Sunday school needed a Christmas carol for their annual program. With memory of that earlier night still mind, Brooks wrote the words to O Little Town of Bethlehem. In need of a tune, he asked his friend, Louis Redden, the church organist, to set to a tune that the children Brooks loved so much could sing. Redden struggled for days. On the night of the program, he woke from his sleep, singing the tune we know as O Little Town of Bethlehem. Now for Hark the Herald Angels Sing, number 240. The Methodist theologian, Charles Wesley, too was engaged in helping people learn the message of the Christmas story. In keeping with the tradition of using carols to teach, he wrote a poem in 1739. In this poem, he explained the doctrine behind the biblical story of the angel chorus. The first two lines read, "Hark how all the welkin rings, glory to the King of Kings." Wondering what a welkin is? It is a word used to describe the dome, For many, people believed separated heaven and earth. An archaic word, not spoken in casual conversation over tea, but sometimes used by poets. George Whitefield, a friend of Wesley and a Methodist preacher, liked the message, but found a more singable way to express it. He rearranged the poem, and it was ready for music. Felix Mendelssohn had written a piece of music which he felt surely not anything sacred. However, his music and Wesley's words were perfect for each other. In 1627, the English Parliament had banned the celebration of Christmas and any other worldly festivals. It wasn't until the 1800s that Christmas celebrations began again. In that time, Charles Wesley's carol had survived.
Now, for angels we have heard on high. Number 238. Christmas carols from France are also included in our hymns today. We have already sung Sing Me Now of Christmas, a carol perfect to accompany the French tradition of the crèche, handmade nativity scenes in homes and towns and squares. Another French carol, Angels We Have Heard on High, number 238, was used in accompanying the crèche as well. Technically, this is a macaronic carol because it uses two languages, English and Latin. With the text stemming from Luke chapter 2, verses 6 through 20, we hear the canticle of the angel song, one of the most famous and frequently sung of the Christmas canticles.
The carol's refrain is taken directly from that verse. This is traditionally French carol, originated as early as the 18th century, and begins in a festive spirit. Stanza 2 asks, why the celebration? Stanza 3 invites us to join this song. And now, for assignment number 239. In Salzburg, Austria, in the early 19th century, a young priest and musician friend discussed the lack of a perfect Christmas Eve. After learning that his church organ was not working and repairs could not be made until after Christmas, Father Joseph Moore decided that he must write his own. Father Moore wrote a poem and sent it over to his friend Hans Gruber. Gruber set the poem to music, and the hymn was completed in time for the Christmas Eve Mass and was accompanied by a guitar.
And now for our second to last song of this morning. Infant Holy, Infant Lowly, number 229. People in almost every culture around the world have told the story of the birth of Jesus. The variety of music to which the familiar story has been set provides a colorful background for its retelling in any language. Holy has given us a carol about the baby in the manger. It is a litany lullaby for the baby. Now we come to our concluding hymn. Thank you, choir. Thank you, audience. Those at home as well. Our Christmas carol story is complete as we sing number 245, the first Noel. Now, the carol is a song about the birth of Jesus, and one that was sung by the English village people as they brought in the Yule log on Christmas Eve each year. They would burn the Yule log to symbolize the triumph of light over darkness, rejoicing in the gift of Jesus, the light of the world. A happy thought in a place like England, where the winter days are short and the winter nights so long.